Welcome to Fearlessly Made You. I am your host, Kristie Tobias. Joining me today are guests just striving to dominate in their personal and professional lives while answering the question, what does it mean to be fearlessly made? On this episode of Fearlessly Made You, I am surprising you guys yet again with another Tobias sibling. This is the last of us, I promise. But my brother, Drew Tobias, who is a new product development manager, whatever that means. Just kidding. I know what that means. My brother, Drew, is joining us today. Drew is the last of the Tobias siblings that will be joining us. But I will challenge to say probably the sagest, his own words, but truly the one that has the most degrees. So, Drew, welcome to Fearlessly Made You.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you, Drew, for that wonderful intro. So one of the cool things I love about having my own podcast and show is I can bring whoever I want on here. So I brought Drew on, though, because one of the cool things that I love to talk to people about is my family dynamics, how we all are together, of course, but also because I find that our journeys have all been different, even though we've all kind of lived together. And it's really great just to kind of learn, or have you guys kind of learn a little bit more about what it means to be fearlessly made from the eyes of a different Tobias. So I'm excited that Drew's here and honored that he is too, because I truly have gained some great wisdom from Drew as well. And this is the only time, Drew, you will ever hear me say that. I will deny it if you bring it up again.
Well-known facts. The world knows it. So.
Fair enough. But Drew, why don't you tell our Fearlessly Made You crew a little bit about you, a little bit about kind of your work, your job, but then also what it was like growing up with such an amazing older sister.
All right, I'll start with myself first. So I guess I'll start with the job title because that sort of helps define the journey a little bit. So as a new product development manager, I am just a research chemist. So I'm in charge of developing new molecules for our company. We're a specialty chemical manufacturer, so we make products for all sorts of customers. My journey started in Greensboro, North Carolina, as you guys know. A small, lovely town of Whitsett, right on the outside of Greensboro.
Tiny town.
No, we'll fast forward through that. I went to college as a chemist, so I have a bachelor's in chemistry as well as a master's in chemistry. I went to a very, very small private school in the middle of nowhere, South Carolina. I went there on a lacrosse scholarship, but I always knew I wanted to do chemistry, so I ended up majoring in chemistry. After that, I had no idea what I was supposed to do. So my advisor, who's a great guy, great mentor, great chemist, he advised me that I should apply to grad school. So I applied to grad school at UNC Charlotte, got my master's in chemistry there, and went on to get my PhD in nanoscale science. So that's a whole nother journey in itself. A few jobs later, I started doing a teaching gig at Furman University. So I was a visiting professor at the chemistry department. That was a sort of contract job. It was my first job out of grad school. I had no idea what I wanted to do, like I mentioned a second ago. So it was a good chance to get in the academia world as well as say, hey, do I actually want to do this? Turns out I didn't.
Wasn't for you.
Wasn't really what I wanted to do. I enjoyed that job. Furman's a great place. I still keep in touch with a lot of the faculty there. But, teaching, I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I learned a lot of lessons. But at the end of the day, I knew sort of where I wanted to be, and that was in industry.
Yeah.
So I got a job for a small tech startup in San Diego after that, which is a huge change. It was a nanoparticle research scientist position. So long story short, we were developing products that were based off of nanoparticles. And if you want to get into the whole nanoparticle,
that's another episode. We'll have an episode dedicated to nanoparticles.
We can just leave it at that for the time being. And then from there, a few reasons, mainly it's expensive to live in San Diego, caused me to move back to South Carolina, where I was actually a quality control manager, which is completely different than research. Think about like a production line. I'm in charge of all the testing for those products that come out, making sure that we can make the same product over and over and over again. But instead of like a toy factory, chemicals. So I was in charge of testing. It was a lot. It's very stressful, but it was a very rewarding job at the same time. Fast forward to now where I got this job as new product development manager. So interesting journey with a lot of steps, which you could dig into any one of them for a while.
Yeah, no, I think the cool thing about it though was you went through so many different places, and having the privilege of kind of watching you kind of go into those different areas was your honest realization of being like, this isn't for me. Like, but staying there and kind of figuring it out, right? And I think, especially for the Fearlessly Made You crew, we talk about this a lot. It's that conversation around not allowing fear to own you, but you kind of owning what your journey looks like. And I think you very much did that. Especially, I remember when you went to California, that was a huge transition and leap. And that was there was probably a lot of fear that maybe was accompanied with that. I think one of the things I admire the most about Drew is, even if he may or may not be afraid of something, we may never know, because he's like, I'm gonna do it. Like, this is just what I'm gonna do. But I'm curious. Yeah, I want to dig into that a little bit though, Drew. Like, was that like that transition for you, where whether it's the California transition or even that transition where you're like, I actually don't know what I want to do? How was that? Like, how were you feeling at that point? Like, dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, first, I should probably preface, it sounds like I'm just, changing jobs left and right, which it felt like that at the time. But each job, it was more of a stepping stone. Mm-hmm. They were different experiences, yes, but I always tell people I couldn't have got the next job without the job that I had before. Connection or experience wise. So it's something you look back on and you're like, I'm glad that it happened that way.
Yeah.
That's one thing. I just wanted to preface that. But yeah, the moving out to the West Coast, we should probably set the stage, right?
Yes. Let's set the stage. Let's get in there.
Close your eyes, get into the story. I was renting a house and I got the job. So I decided, we're going to move cross country. So how do we do this? Well, let's just load up the car with all my stuff and drive to San Diego from South Carolina. But my whole life was in the Sorrento, and then Gabby decided to tag along. So,
that's the baby sister, as a reminder to y'all, the self-proclaimed fierce one. She decided she was going to go.
Our little sister, who, as far as the siblings go, Gabby and I are probably the most opposite people.
Yes. That's accurate.
We get along very well at times, but we don't bump heads a lot. We have fun together, but we're very opposite people. But anyway, so I loaded up all of my belongings in the Kia Sorrento and drove with Gabby across country. It was a great trip, actually. It was very, very fun. But then we got to San Diego. I dropped Gabby off at the airport, and it sort of hit me at that point. Like,
it's
just you. We're Pacific time now.
Everything has changed, that you know.
Luckily, one of my college teammates and one of my really good friends, his cousin lived out there and was looking for a roommate. So I didn't have to do the whole house searching. He let me in, which I'm still very grateful for that. He's a wonderful guy for letting me stay with him. Obviously, I split the rent, but still, it was a godsend that he was able to do that.
Absolutely.
And mindset-wise, it was a completely different job as well.
Yeah.
I was doing research as a visiting professor at Furman, but this was, you're going to work for a tech startup where instead of just doing research to publish papers, we're going to be making products. We want to sell these and get them out the door. And that was my first experience with that. As well as having to manage groups of people. That was my first sort of managerial experience as well.
And level set a little bit too, because one of the cool things that I do love about our family is I would never call us ever going through the experience of like age being a factor of maturity for us. We just kind of I think we started out as little adults. How old were you at this point?
That's a good question. I was 29.
Yeah. Are you sure? Okay. I was like, I knew you were like in your 20s, but you were like out there on your own, new job, managing a bunch of people that were all probably older than you too, like just doing all these things by yourself in California.
Yeah, which it was, I'm not just 29 at this point. I just finished grad school as well.
Yep.
And so a lot of people, when you tell them that you have a PhD, they think that means, I'm balding,
I mean, you kind of are. Or is that the gray hair?
Not bald.
There's a little recession. Never mind. That's a different conversation.
Grad school was sort of an extension of college for me because I went straight from undergrad to grad school. So I was a bit more mature than I was in college, but it was very college-esque.
College-esque.
more responsibility. So yeah, it was my first time really being an adult, and adulting, as the kids say today.
Adulting, as the kids say. Is that what you just said? As the kids say. No, I think that's the cool thing about it, though, is like you did that in such an interesting way, like just apart from everyone else. So as we're kind of flashing forward to kind of where you are now, I think one of the cool transitions that has happened in your life is the wealth of people, and to level set for you guys, you will not be surprised to know that the Tobias siblings as a whole, none of us are really introverted. Drew, between the boys, but Drew, I've watched this happen since I was 2, has never met a stranger ever in life. I literally have watched him as a kid go into a room and I turn around and I turn back around and Drew is talking to some old person. Like, it just chatting with someone. I mean, everyone. But it's a cool thing about you, though, too, because, you know, in every experience, you're able to find your place somewhere because you just kind of, it's not even just like, I'm just adaptable, like to say that about you, but it's just, that's very much your nature. And I love and admire that. So for you too, though, I think one of the great things is as you've transitioned, now you're in a role that I feel like you really, like you said, it was, every role was a stepping stone. This role feels like it really, like it's bringing you back to what you love. What is it? So, and I say all that kind of prefacing with, what is it for you as I think about other people, right? I think about people out there who are like, well, clearly like he didn't let fear own his journey, but I don't know if I can do that. And so like you're really allowing yourself to lean into your journey, leaning into what you enjoy, even during the uncomfortable moments, still kind of allowing yourself to grow. How do you guide people or kind of give people advice on how they too can kind of lean into their own journeys in that way?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I know, that's why I asked it. Just kidding.
Fair enough.
Just kidding.
So one of the things I find passion in is mentoring people. I've had the opportunity to do that a lot. I coach, which is in itself a mentorship. I've told, let's say, laboratory technicians that have worked for me, I've told them this. One, you might have a job that you don't necessarily think you're going to be at your whole life. It might be absolutely horrible, actually. Or you could have a job that you enjoy, but you don't see any longevity in it.
Right.
You can't live every day of your life focusing on how much you hate that job.
That's good.
Dig into your job and figure out something that you can use, whether it's a bullet point on your resume, whether it's an experience that you're not going to get somewhere else, or an experience that you want to do somewhere else.
Yeah.
You have to do something in whatever you're doing. And this is a life lesson as well.
Yeah.
Find something in whatever you're doing that you can carry on to your next step. Don't view it as a downgrade or a pitfall or something negative. View it as, I'm on this level right now. I'm going to make the most of it. And I'll figure out where my next step is after that.
I love that. I think it very much leans into, it's a cool thing, like your philosophy on life too, because I have, and I say this with true honesty and sincerity, I've learned a lot of lessons from Drew in general. I think there's just, when he says he's the sage one, he really is. Like, I might be the oldest of all of us, but I think between Gabby and I, we're probably the most stressful siblings. We tend to stress a lot, but it's because we struggle with that philosophy of like leaning into what you're learning from moments sometimes. And I call that out in just an honest way. And so I think that's that's a really beautiful way to think about it, Drew. And so I almost kind of want to shift. We've kind of gone into that professional side, but I want to go into the personal side of your life. All of y'all that have been part of the Fearlessly Made You crew have followed social media. Y'all all have known about a little tiny whom I love and adore, who looks like a mini version of me. Just me. Oh, just kidding. She looks like a mini version of my brother. So it's my niece, Sophia. And so I want to kind of shift Drew into kind of the personal side of your life. So you've got this really cool and amazing journey that you've done professionally. And then you also have this really cool journey with this little nugget, Sophia, who is 5 going on 15, who is just amazing and so smart and already so determined. And I love her so much. But I would love for you to talk a little bit about that kind of connecting point with professional and personal life too, because being, you know, a successful professional, but also being a dad, that's a lot. Like, that's a lot of things that you have to kind of put together and also great learning moments. So talk to us a little bit about that personal side of your life, being a dad to Sophia, and what that's meant for you.
Am I allowed to drink from my beverage?
Yes, actually, let's do that. Let's cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, brother. So yes, as always, we will always have beverages. So yes, you can please continue to drink from your beverage. No, I forgot that we had our beverages. This is the first time I've forgotten they've been here. Yes.
So my journey into fatherhood was, let's say, a roller coaster.
That's fair. That's fair.
Roller coaster. I love roller coasters, but a good roller coaster. So I'm going to have to set the stage again. I'm a storyteller.
He is a storyteller. Y'all thought I was. See, for those of you that are like, you always tell stories. Nope. You need to meet the brothers.
I tell stories a lot.
Yes.
So, I got to set the stage, the environment. So backtrack to where I'm in grad school. So year 4, when I'm finishing things up, at this point in your PhD, you're typically finishing up any lab work for my case. I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to write my dissertation, getting publications out, etc. That was when I found out I was going to have Sophia. Me, not personally, but you know what I mean.
Not you.
So I had Sophia my last semester. Sophia was born my last semester of grad school. And there's pictures somewhere on Facebook of me writing my dissertation with her in my lap.
Yes.
She was excited my dissertation.
That's on my phone, actually. I have that on my phone. I think it's one of my screensavers.
Yeah, so as far as stress levels, that's what I mean about the roller coaster. We're at the top of the mountain there. It was a stressful time in my life at that point. It was great. Anytime you have a child, any parent knows it's a blessing. It's a very emotional experience, and it only gets better with time. But yeah, it's stressful. You have to provide for another little human being at this point who doesn't know how to behave socially.
You didn't teach her that when she came out the womb?
Eventually, but yeah, they're just little wild animals at some point. We have to hone them into human beings that can interact in society. So I have Sophia. I'm writing my dissertation. I finished. I graduate. And now I'm looking for jobs. And I'm not, this is something that some people are ashamed to say, because this experience I've found many colleagues that have had the same experience. I had a very difficult time finding a job right after I graduate. So I have a child. I'm jobless for a while. And I found a job to work in the meantime while I was, before I got that Furman job.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a bit stressful. I'm on my high horse. I just got my PhD. I just graduated, and then I'm unemployed.
Right. Right. Small things. Dr. Drew, no job.
Right. But again, you can't let those things drag you down.
Yeah.
I was applying to something like 5 jobs a day. It was that rate.
And I can definitely just not like a must vouch for, but I think in having gotten to watch you kind of going through that was something that I think was so interesting. And it's a reminder to the Fearlessly Made You crew. Drew's resolve wasn't, I'm not going to get a job. Drew's resolve is, the right job is coming. Like, it was very much like you knew and you continued to apply. I'm sure it was frustrating, but it didn't stop you from continuing to push forward. And I think sometimes we allow those uncomfortable moments to make us afraid of continuing to try. And that was never, and I don't think that's any of our resolves at all as siblings. Like, it's that we're going to figure it out. We're going to push forward.
Yeah. And, I had a little bit of a help going through the doctoral program, especially as a chemist. Many chemists out there are watching this. I'm not sure how many are in your fan base, Kristie.
All of them. They are all chemists.
One thing you learn as a chemist, if you're a decent chemist, is patience. A lot of times if you're trying something that just doesn't work. Yeah. You learn more lessons from things that don't work than you do things that do work. So I'm applying to jobs. I didn't get that one. Well, maybe I need to change my resume. I didn't get that job. Maybe I need to alter my cover letter. Let's scrap all of these and start from. I did all these things many times over and over again. And I finally just found the right one. It's a mix of networking and, fixing your resume and cover letter. You guys know the drill there. Yeah. But yeah, you can't have the resolve of not going to accomplish something I want to do. Yeah. You can change your ideas. You can change your approach. But at the end of the day, if you want to do something, you need to go pursue it.
Yeah. I feel like that ties in really nicely too. Like, with your work and personal, like with being a dad too, is like, there's so much of like trying to figure out like, okay, so now you're at this place where like, got to figure out the job thing. got to figure out the whole parenting thing as well.
Right.
And you can't just like not parent. Like that's not a thing you can do.
Right. Yeah, that part of it never shuts off. So
yeah,
the job is to take a break for.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you share kind of the honesty of where you were at, like in one of the most difficult situations of your life, on top of now you have a child, and then kind of flashing forward now. Sophia is going to be 6 in June, right? I ask you, but I'm like, I know this, but I'm just like confirmation. But it's kind of cool seeing where you are now with her. And I guess kind of going backwards, we were talking about some of the things in coaching that you've given people, because Drew's also a lacrosse coach, as he mentioned earlier. He's a coach. He's a lacrosse coach at Clemson, assistant lacrosse coach there. And so he's imparted so much mentoring and value to people. And you have your little one. And so thinking about with Sophia, things that you want her to continue to know and learn, as we think about Fearlessly Made You and what it means to live your fearless existence, what are the things that you want to make sure that she understands about being fearless, so not letting fear own you?
Yeah, I think I do threes. Threes are very easy to remember, and it's good to have 3 points. First thing is life's not that serious.
Yeah.
Have fun, enjoy yourself. Life is way too short to be stressed out over every little thing. Just relax, calm down. Go slide down the slide. Do something.
As an adult, slide down the slide.
Yeah,
truly, you should.
Adults as well. Get in this thing, do something. That's one. Have fun with yourself. You can't not have fun in life. So have fun. Do things that you want to do. But 2, you can do what you want to do, but those things are not going to be given to you. You're going to have to pursue. So pursuit is important.
Yeah.
I don't mean pursuing is, badgering people. You have to tactically and logically approach things. You have to make sure that you plan it out. You have a goal set, you plan it out, you figure out what resources you have to accomplish said goal, and then you reach that goal. And so that's the second thing is, make sure that you actually have a plan to pursue your goals. And the third thing is that one thing, this could be a downfall of my personality, I don't see it as a downfall, is I'm not a bridge burner.
No, you are not.
I like to keep in touch with people. You never know when you're going to need that resource. I'm also a pack rat. Probably plays into that mentality.
Yes.
I keep everything that I have.
You are dad. I just thought about it. Now we know.
But there's probably the biggest lesson I think I want to teach her in life is that empathy is probably the best tool you can have in life. Actually being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes will save you so many headaches in life. You don't have to be mean to people. Yes, you can have a bad day. Everyone has a bad day. If I'm having a bad day, I might not be the best, most pleasant person to talk to. But think about how many bad days you've had in your life.
Yeah.
How many times have you woken up on the wrong side of the bed? Someone said something to you at 5 a.m. and it just ruined your whole day. Now, multiply that by how many people there are in the world and think about how many people you're interacting with every day that are probably having a bad day.
Yeah.
It's, put yourself in someone else's shoes. Yeah, someone parked in the spot you wanted at Target. All right, go find another spot. That's why they make parks. So
There's so many. Yeah.
Like you don't have to. That goes back to what I said earlier. It's not that serious.
Yeah.
Empathize with people. Understand where people are coming from. Relate to them.
I love that, Drew. I think that really, and I love it for so many reasons because I think it's something that we're all continuously learning. And I think I love it because it is so much a values part of Fearlessly Made You and of what, we stand for on this podcast and show, me and my team behind me. But it's also something that I think you just have to continue to work at, right? And I will always say this, that the brothers are significantly kinder and more empathetic than, and not to say, my sister and I are very empathetic, almost to a fault. Sometimes like we feel a lot of where people are. But I think overall, like that's one of the things that I have always loved so much about you, Drew, is Drew will stay friends with every single person in the world, like everyone. And I don't think it's a downfall at all. Like I think it is definitely a really beautiful part of your, who you are. And I think it's also why you are where you are and you are such a great dad to Sophia. And I don't mean that like facetiously, I mean that very honestly, because I get the privilege of watching you be a dad. So as part of that too, I love the first point, which was having fun. So we're going to have a little bit of fun before I know, you ready? All right, let's think. So first of all, before we go into this part, what are you drinking right now?
This is some Scotch whiskey. some Glenlivet Federal Reserve.
Yes. So Drew, when I can't remember how, I think I was turning 35 maybe. I think I came up, like I made my way up to North Carolina through South Carolina. And that may have been what you got me for my birthday or something like that.
I think so. Yeah, something like it was similar.
So good. So all right, you ready? Here's the game. Think about it's a chill day. Maybe you're just hanging out on the back patio. Maybe you're on a boat. I don't know. And you're thinking about the ideal beverage. Alcohol. What is your ideal beverage that you have on the most relaxed, chill day?
It's probably a beer of some sort, honestly. Beer's usually my go-to. I was last on my scotch, so I figured out this was an opportune moment for that.
I love it. That's perfect.
Yeah, most likely a beer, maybe a lighter IPA.
Okay.
I know that sounds very pretentious and weird, but whatever.
All right, a lighter. I love it. Well, Drew, let's do one more cheers because I have so much appreciated you being on the podcast, talking about your journey. Cheers, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much. And guys, again, I know you guys enjoyed getting to know the last and final Tobias sibling just as much as I did. So you guys, thank you again for tuning in. And don't forget to listen in, tune in, and subscribe, of course, to Fearlessly Made You. We'll see you next time.